Well, I'm so excited that we get to spend some time together and chat and talk about yoga therapy. And what I love is that, you and I are both yoga therapists, and there are similarities to the way we practice as yoga therapists, and there are differences to the way we practice as yoga therapists. And I think that's so important, to talk about and to share, and for people to know that there's not just one way to do this. And so I'm excited to just talk about the way we both work. And so would you just kind of introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I'm Sarah Randall, and as you said, Lucy, I'm a yoga therapist, and I live in Eastern Washington in Spokane. And I work with individuals one-on-one, and I work with small group. And I'm just happy to be here to talk about the details of my work and hear more details about your work and how it's all going to come together. And it's been a joy to collaborate with you. What I've been able to so far this year.
Yeah, it's been lots of fun and so awesome to have you as part of this team putting together this yoga therapy curriculum. So, as you know, I'm Lucy Davis, and I'm a yoga therapist in private practice in Tyler, Texas. And I'm also the program director for the Living Soul Institute Yoga Therapy program. And I work with individuals and couples. I do a little bit of small group work, but mostly individuals and couples. And my focus is more on trauma and the nervous system. So that's kind of where I hone in, and that's pretty much kind of what people seek from me when they come to see me. That's what they're looking for. So yeah, so it's just fun to see that we're doing the same thing, but we're doing different things, and just showing people God's love through our work.
Mm.
And
Hmm. Yeah.
this is a calling. It's not a job. It's a calling. And I'm very grateful to
Mhm.
to know what God wants me to do with my time and my resources. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So, if you had to come up with Sarah's definition of yoga therapy, what would that be? What's your
Mm.
definition of yoga therapy?
Well, talking about on the thread of, variety and the diversification within yoga therapy, there have been so many definitions of yoga therapy throughout the years that have resonated with me. Um, but I would say in the most practical and simplistic terms, I would describe yoga therapy as simply as yoga tailored to the individual based on their suffering or their condition, their goals, and their capabilities. So that is how I would describe it on a very foundational, functional, simplistic territory or terms. But my favorite definition of yoga therapy is relationship.
Mm.
And Lucy, yesterday we were talking and you were telling me more about your teaching experience. And as you were telling me about your teaching experience, I was thinking to myself, like, you are describing one of my favorite definitions of yoga therapy as relationship. When you were talking about your experience with your clients and what you do, and that's what I was hearing from your words is relationship. And so there's a lot of nuances to what that actually means. Um, but when I think of yoga therapy and as I've experienced yoga therapy and as I've been taught yoga therapy, that it's relationship. And so when you are in front of another individual, you your nervous system is talking to that other nervous system, right? There's that between communication, and you become a restorative resource for that person in front of you. And from that restorative relationship, they feel support. They become confident. They have trust. And it's from that confidence and that trust that then transformation is possible.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're doing what we can with the person as they are in front of us to improve their quality of life, to enhance their quality of life and longevity. And working with the individual as they are in front of us in the moment. And I think that there's that time that you have with the individual in front of you. And then there's also practice-based portion of the yoga therapy. So yoga's relationship, but there's also a practice-based portion of that. And so when there's good relationship, when there's that supportive, restorative resource, that then empowers the individual to do something for themselves. It inspires them to do the practices that you will subscribe or prescribe, right? And
Absolutely.
so to me, that's kind of the nuance of it is relationship, but it's also practice based. There is that time when you're together one-on-one, but then there's also the practices that you want to empower them to do, because really it's about living the yoga. We want to improve their life. And so we meet them with whatever suffering that they are against, or coming up against, or dealing with, living with. And we work within that. We work within what is their goal, what are their aspirations, and what are their capabilities. And that, as you know, changes
Yeah.
in
I
the time
love
of being with
that.
the relationship.
Yeah. And I love, just that whole definition of, it's the co-regulation piece and it's the trust piece and it's the cultivating a relationship and building that trust. Because if there is co-regulation and they feel safe with you and they trust you, they're going to trust that, that you have their best interest um
Yeah.
in mind, and I feel very much the same way. Like I see yoga therapy as meeting people where they are
Mhm.
physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and walking alongside them as a compassionate witness and being supportive
Yeah.
of them on their journey, and whatever that is, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes clients are not like what we think is going to look like healing or success or whatever for them is not where they end up,
Mm.
either by their own choice or their circumstances. But
Yeah.
but we can still walk alongside them and be compassionate and be supportive and be that person that they can co-regulate to if they have no one else, or if they don't have a lot of resources for that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's such a good point that you make with that, that when we come to it with an agenda, that never works out. They can have an agenda and we
yeah.
can help support them, and it
And
is
they can have goals and we can have a plan, but
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but it with the skills and the competencies that we gain, right, as yoga therapists, then we learn how to adapt and modify
yeah.
and change the plan, and really, like you said, just meet them where they are. It's that honest evaluation. And from that honest evaluation, what I found is it becomes less of me just prescribing meditation or pranayama or a movement, and it's really a co-creating together. You really are, and that's the empowering piece, right? That's what helps the individual become inspired to continue that work on their own when they're not in front of you, because what we get to see them for, like, what, an hour or 90 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
once a week, or if you're lucky, twice a week.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it's what they're doing when they're
When they're
away from
not with
us,
you.
when
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
with us. Yeah, we want to be able to then hand them off support within the discipline, within the practices, so that they can continue this healing journey. And so yeah, it's all
Yeah.
good stuff. And I
Well,
think,
and
go ahead.
like restoring agency to them. Like I always tell people, your nervous system is as unique as your fingerprint. I'm not
Mm,
going to tell you what to do. I'm going to offer you some options and we're going to kind of play
mm,
with them and explore them. And you're going to decide what feels nurturing and supportive and helpful to you.
mm,
But it's
mhm,
that restoration of
mm,
agency for so
mhm,
many people to really listen to themselves and trust themselves rather than outsourcing that to everyone else
mm.
around them.
You just described another one of my favorite definitions of yoga therapy. It's so beautifully said. And that it's invitational, right? It's invitational versus instructional. And I think a lot of times that's a one of the bigger differences that I notice with like teaching a group yoga class, which is good and wonderful and love it. But the difference between teaching group and then teaching one-on-one is it really does become more invitational versus instructional, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, we make suggestions, they make decisions. So,
And
but
like you said, we're co-creating with them.
co-creating, yeah,
Yeah.
because you get that one-on-one interaction,
Mm.
and you really get to listen generously with compassion and curiosity. And then from that listening, we help them respond, and then you're able to respond with supportive practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk a little bit because I know like you have a home studio. I have like an actual office.
You're official.
And
You're official.
I'm so official.
I'm JV.
Whatever. No, not at
I'm
all.
JV in the basement.
I just don't have a basement because I'm in Texas. But just even like the differences between like how we practice, how we see people, what that looks
Mm.
like, how people come to us, how people hear about us, like how does that, what does that look like for you?
Oh, it's always changing, which is like beautiful and wonderful and also can be challenging. But for me, I have found a lot of diversification within yoga therapy. And so currently what it looks like for me is I do have some one-on-ones that I do. And I typically, because of my limited space, it's recently changed, but before I would always go to their homes.
Okay.
So I was on the go, I was on the road. So I would do my one-on-ones at their home. And now I'm transitioning to where now that I have a space at my house, I give them the option. So I give them the option whether they would prefer me to come to them or to come to me. What I found is they normally like to come to me because it helps them to separate from their life,
All the
right? All
distractions
the
at
distractions,
home.
and
Yeah.
like they're laying on the floor and they're like, oh my gosh, when's the last time I dusted? Or, I need to vacuum. So
Mhm.
it works better because they can come to my house and not worry about the dirt, right? That's my problem, not theirs.
Wow.
Um, so I do see a few people at my home in my studio, and that's wonderful. And I teach a small group yoga therapy session, and it's women, and it is tailored around yoga therapy for healthy aging. And it's really mostly the focus concentration is calm strength. So we're building strength in a very calm state, regulating the nervous system, and managing stress,
Yeah.
finding ways, tools to manage stress and the transitions in life. um, and so that's been a really life-giving class, and a lot of community that's growing with that I love to see. That's probably my favorite part about yoga therapy in a group, is because it's usually smaller. So this specific group can vary anywhere from like 6 to 9 women. It just fluctuates anywhere in that range, which is perfect for yoga therapy. Um, Anything bigger than that gets a little more difficult.
It's hard for people to be vulnerable and for it to be intimate when it
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
too big. Yeah.
Too big. Yeah, yeah. And so that, just seeing that the community that is evolving from that and the relationships that are being met, because these women they're in similar phases of life, situations, relational. And so it's just like, so nothing brings me more joy than to see them like connecting and hearing that they're connecting outside of class. And then every now and then I get invited, and that's fun too. But
I love it.
and so, yeah, so small group yoga therapy, what a wonderful way to create, healing and community. And then I teach yoga therapy at a private university. So I teach to college students, and that class is very specific. It's a I teach restorative yoga and meditation. And so it's really a combination of, it's mostly supine positions. There's a lot of days we don't even get off of our back.
Love it.
Yeah. So we're just laying down and being quiet, right? Like lay down, chill out, let's relax. And then meditation, combination of guided meditation and breathing. And I teach corporate, so I teach yoga therapy at the corporate level. So I mean, you can see like
Yeah.
we're all over here, right? But in the very best ways, because it's yoga therapy can be tailored to whoever it is, person or group in front of you. And so I have corporate clients, and that, of course, is more structural.
Mhm.
It's really structural, posture based, and regulating the nervous system, just releasing stress, breathing. But I have found that it's needed.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
needed, and it's so awesome for companies and corporations to see this corporate wellness as something that is, really helpful for the productivity and the health of the individuals in the company. Um, and
Absolutely.
so, yeah, yeah. And then I'm also currently teaching yoga therapy one-on-one with sex trafficking survivors at a safe house.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you, because I know this is something I have to work really hard at, and I'm curious, I'm sure you do too. How do you take care of Sarah so that you can continue to do this work? Because some of it's heavy.
hmm hmm Yeah. Living Soul Institute has
Yeah.
been a great companion, has brought me a lot of healing and that side by side togetherness with we're in this together. And so that's been a great support that was a complete surprise and came right when I needed it. But through
Funny
prayer.
how God does that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Um, but for me, especially just as a Christian, my restoration comes like I start my day in scripture, just being inspired, being encouraged, feeling that support, and my meditation, my breathing, my yoga. It's like all of those things. And then as much as I can during the day, just touch back into those things, just touch back into it, whether it's a breath, whether it's a word, whether it's just a moment, really trying to then extend that beginning of my daytime with God and with truth, grounding, stability, touch back into it as much as I can throughout the day. And then to the best of my ability before I fall asleep at night.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So it's just those anchoring, it's just anchoring to God, leaning in, pressing in on Jesus to teach me, to be schooled by Jesus every day and to breathe the spirit and just try and catch the wind of the spirit and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah,
Going.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do clients hear about you? Is it, I mean, because when you and I've talked about in the past that you don't do, like, you're not on social media, you don't do a lot of marketing. Like, how do people find you?
I don't just word of mouth referrals. Yeah. Just slowly building, one class, one person at a time, just trusting that, um, that God will bring people to me that I might be of help to them, and then God will bring people to me that they can help me, right? It's that
Yeah.
support goes both ways. And so I learn a lot from my clients. I learn a lot from my clients. It's
Yeah.
such humbling work, and it's patient, humble work, right?
Yes. And I love it because a lot of times I'll get a new client, and because of that client, I need to learn more about something in particular.
Mm,
So for example, my longest standing client, I've been seeing her for 9 years, and I've known her for like 35 years. And she was diagnosed with MS about 9.5 years ago. And she called me and said, I need your help. And I didn't know anything about MS.
mhm.
And so, as a result of working with her, obviously, I have learned a whole lot about MS, and so that to me, like those, like you said, we learn from our clients, and it's an opportunity to stretch yourself and learn about something different. And I'm always learning something, and different things that I can weave in and incorporate, but yeah, I love learning from my clients because that's
Yeah.
that's who you're going to learn the most from is
Mhm.
working with people and being with people.
Yeah, it really is. It's just it's doing it, right? It's
Yeah.
just it's showing up and doing it even when you feel like you might not be qualified or capable.
Mm.
I know I felt that before. And then it comes back to that restorative resource. Like sometimes it's as simple as that. We might not know what to do, but it's just being a supportive presence to
Yeah.
hold space, to support, and then and to listen generously and co-create.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's really just being absorbed by the person in front of you. So my yoga upbringing was through the tradition and teaching of Deska Char, and something that he would say is, I meditate on my student. I
Mm.
meditate on my student, and that's powerful.
Yeah.
Like to think about, I'm completely focused, I'm locked in on
Yeah.
the person in
Yeah.
front of me,
Yeah. I love that. And
and
that's what's so fun about the one-on-one work is
yeah,
that you can do that. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my practice is a little bit different from yours. I don't do as much group work as you do. I've done a little bit of group work and I like it. It's just a matter of figuring out where it fits,
Yes.
with everything else. I mostly see individuals and couples. I actually love working with couples, which has kind of been a surprise to me. But I find it very rewarding. And I find over and over again the feedback from the husband is usually, I would much rather do this than go to counseling. So I think it feels less threatening to men in a lot of ways. It's less like they don't feel like they're in trouble or getting ganged up on. And teaching couples co-regulation skills is a lot of fun. But yeah, so I actually have an office. And I have, I've really worked on boundaries to get really structured with my schedule and when I'm available to see clients and
Mm-hmm.
when I'm, doing other things. And that's helped me a lot to have good boundaries. And then I do have a couple of virtual clients that has been a bit of a stretch for me. And you and I've talked about that before that there's a generation behind us that has done everything virtually. And I really encourage people like when you're doing your practicum, try both, try in person, try virtual. I really like to be in the room with someone's nervous system, but there are times that I will make an exception depending on the client and the situation and see people virtually. So that's been kind of something I've been exploring. And then I've done some corporate work too, with different organizations, and I really enjoy that. Um,
Mhm.
and then let's see, what else were we talking about? How we practice, and then what
Just how you get your clients.
Oh, how we get clients.
Yeah.
A lot of mine are word of mouth, and a lot are referrals. I get referrals from counselors, and I've been real intentional about, especially when I first went into private practice, about getting out there and, getting to know. I mean, I already knew a lot of these people, but chiropractors and counselors
Mhm.
and just different, massage therapists, different people who might be referral sources. And then actually, we have a little group that meets once a quarter, and I would encourage anybody, especially if you're an independent practitioner and you're kind of feel like a lone ranger at times. We have a little group that gets together once a quarter. We meet at my house and we have lunch, and it's all independent practitioners. And
Mm.
we jokingly call ourselves the Woo Woo Club because we're all more holistically minded. There's two counselors. One does a lot of work with dissociation and EMDR, and then the other one does just all kinds of trauma work. There's a massage therapist who's trauma informed. We have a holistic esthetician in our group. We
Mhm.
have two different functional nutrition coaches in our group. We have a woman who's a naturopath and a woman who does the tapping. And we just get together and just support each other and encourage each other. And then we
Yeah,
refer to each other, not because we
yeah.
feel like we're obligated to, but because now that we've kind of started getting together and we understand what each other does, we have these
Mhm.
resources. And so
Mhm.
that's been really neat and a really great way for us to just support and encourage each other. Just especially because all of us are independent practitioners and
Yeah.
just to and we've discovered, like over the years, we only started this group in the last year or so, but as we talk, we realize that we've had a lot of overlap. We just didn't know it maybe at the time with clients and different people we've encountered. So
Yeah.
that's been a neat way for me to both feel connected and feel like I have a community
Mhm.
of other practitioners
Mhm.
and also have that referral relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, two things come to mind. I want to move to Tyler, Texas now. I want to be a part of
And
that
be in the
group.
Woo Woo Club.
Can you zoom me in? I'll just be the
Sure.
square. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just be the square listening. But what a great service for your clients. Because I'm sure, with that group, you're also listening around the edges in other disciplines and learning from other disciplines. And there's always that interplay and that integration. And I think as a yoga therapist, I mean, like when as a yoga therapist, there's just it's the whole person. It's their life, it's their lifestyle. So, it's impossible for nutrition not to come up, right?
Right.
It's impossible not for story and past to come up. And so all of those ways when you can have that resource that with professionals in that field and gain that understanding, not that we have to be experts in it, but we just have an awareness around it. And then we know, like, well, that is something that needs to be tended to in this person. That's not my territory, but I know somebody's whose it is. And you trust that
Absolutely.
person, right? And
Absolutely.
so when you're talking about the business of yoga therapy, I mean, what you have done is it's so smart for yourself and but also just so supportive and helpful for your clients. Did you just walk into like the chiropractic clinics and the massage clinics and like, here's my business card?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've lived here I mean, I already knew a lot of these people,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah.
just gotten out there and like early on when I first went into private practice, like on days that if I didn't have any clients booked, I would say, okay, well, today's going to be a marketing day,
Yeah.
and I would
Yeah.
just get out with my business cards and I had a list of places that, I wanted to go drop
Mhm.
off and say hi. And yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, it's so smart because there are times when someone might be at a chiropractic office or and maybe they have then been referred to the PT in-house or maybe external and then they're at PT and then they're kind of let loose on their own and like what a great time for a yoga therapy session to come in and support to then
yeah.
bring in that like lifetime longevity. Like this is how you can make all of this, this practice a lifetime of learning.
Well, and like we talk about all the time, with all of this, nothing is either or. It's not the mind or the body. It's both and.
Yeah.
It's all the things. And I think by the time someone finds us, they've probably reached a point where they're pretty open to,
Absolutely.
to holistic modalities, right?
They're open or desperate.
Amen. Amen. Or both. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because
Both.
being
Yeah.
desperate
Either.
makes them open. Right. Yeah. But it's by then, it's people are usually ready to do the work. And so it's nice to have resources and other people that we can, like you said, that if that this is not my lane and not my scope of practice, but I know someone who can help you.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely.
We even have a personal trainer in our group who's very like functional movement, longevity focused.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun to have
Yeah.
him in that group too.
Yeah.
So when we think about yoga therapy and, this bridging the gap where, we have modern Western medicine and we have yoga therapy and kind of bridging the gap because, you go to your regular doctor and unless you're paying out of pocket to see like an integrative physician, most of us when we go to the doctor are going to get like a 10-minute visit.
Yeah.
And so how do we, where does yoga therapy fit in your opinion, in kind of filling in the gaps and bridging the gap between Western modern medicine and tending to the mind, the body, the soul?
Mm, I love this question. First of all, we need both, right? We've talked about that. If I break my leg, I want a doctor. I don't need a yoga therapist.
Amen. I will be
So,
of no help to you.
yeah.
Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah. So, we need both. I think in my experience, in my lived experience, I think what it is, the medical model, doctors know a lot about the illness. They know a lot about the disease. They know a lot about the condition, but they maybe not necessarily know a lot about the person. And as a yoga therapist, we come in to meet the person where they are, to know them, to hold their story, to be a restorative resource for them, to support them as they are. And we want the whole story. We want it all. We want as much as they're willing to give us. The more information we know about the person, the more available will be, the easier it will be for us to give them practices, to be with them in a way that is going to facilitate healing. I think that another big gap is that the medical model tends to be based on absolutes. The medical model based on evidence, absolutes, certainties,
Black and
cure.
white. Mhm.
Yeah, cure. And yoga therapy is based on healing. And how I was raised in yoga to know what healing is healing is the restoration of wholeness. And healing also is yoga therapy is also a way in which we can help the individual change their relationship to the suffering. So healing is in yoga therapy is much different than healing in Western medicine or modern medicine because healing isn't always a cure. It's helping the individual change their relationship to the suffering. And I think this is where, the woo-woo comes in. If you want to call it the woo-woo, I think it's just very spiritual. It's that, when we're learning, how would I say this? Yoga therapy can be a spiritual discipline. As a Christian, it can be a spiritual discipline, and accepting mystery is a discipline.
Mhm.
And there are practices within yoga therapy that we can do to practice that mystery. And when I'm talking about mystery in this context, I'm talking about the contradictions, the both and, the paradox, right? I learned very early on as a yoga student about paradox in my body, right?
Yeah.
It was like something that I experienced and I embodied before I ever really caught on intellectually, like, wait, this is not how the rest of the world is operating. So there was a state of confusion for a long time, right? I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, okay. Uh, but when we help the individual accept contradiction,
Mhm.
we meet with them and we're a restorative resource and we see them and we're meeting where they are and we're co-creating together. And all of a sudden, like, they're feeling better. Their illness hasn't gone away, but they're feeling better.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
the
they feel
healing.
seen. They feel seen
They
and
feel
heard.
seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, there's a contradiction there, right? My illness isn't going away. I'm still dealing with this, but at the same time, I'm feeling better. And I mean, that's just the start of it, right? And so to me, it's just healing is the restoration of wholeness. And that to me is where we stand in the gap is um working with all dimensions of the individual, right? And so, like, for me and in my clients, and I do this even in my small group, I do it kind of running in the background with each individual. In a one-on-one, it's more direct communication with it. But I have an assessment tool that I go by that I'm assessing them on every dimension, starting with the physical, their structural, what is their posture? How are they holding their body? And then, moving into their energy level. How are they breathing? What's moving when they breathe? Is it in their chest? Is it in their ribs? Is it in their belly? Is it in all those places? Where is it not moving? And I'm listening to what they're saying. What are their thoughts? What are their perceptions? What are their beliefs? I'm paying attention to their feelings, the mood. I'm seeing how their personality is being expressed through their postures, through, how they're moving in and out, how they're transitioning. I'm listening to just like involuntary sounds that might be coming out. And then, deeper than that is I'm starting to pay attention to, what is their faith like? What is the health of their spiritual life? What is going on there? And I'm taking all of those things into account, right? That's kind of always running in the background. It's funny, sometimes like as a yoga therapist, I recognize like I can't turn it off. So like I sometimes feel like it's an invasion of privacy to people because I'm like, I'm listening to them or something. I'm not even in a yoga setting. I'm in the grocery store at the grocery clerk or something. And I'm just like, it's like processing in the background. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do like one-on-one with you.
Because we're always co-regulating, like
Yeah,
that radar is always going.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My
But
husband and I were on vacation a couple years ago, and there was an older couple that was, at the same place. And like the first night at dinner, I leaned over to my husband and I go, I think that man was either a dentist or a surgeon. And Brian's like, because it was his posture, right? He like, and Brian's like, you are so weird. Like,
I
he's,
get you. I see you.
he's
Yeah.
like, are you just watching people walk around? And I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I might not know your name, but I know your gait,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about where my office is. I'm on the second floor, which is the top floor of my office building, and I'm at the very end of the hall. And of course, I picked it because I have two walls of windows and all this great
Oh,
natural light.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the way I have it configured is when you walk in the door, it's just a big rectangle. But when you walk in the door, like right there, I have like my little sitting area. And so when I'm waiting for a client to come in, I open my door and I sit in one of those little chairs because I can see them coming
Yeah.
all the way down the hall. And I can see
Yeah.
their gait, I can see their posture, I can see if they're, like this or if they're like this. I can
Yeah. Yeah.
so before they even step across the threshold into my office, I've already gathered a whole lot of information about
Absolutely.
the state they're in that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, absolutely. I mean that, yeah, and that's part of it, right? Is we observe, we take in through observation, and then we assess by what we ask them questions and inquire and listen to their response. It all goes into that co-creating, um, the practice for them. It's for them
Yeah.
and for us because we're learning, and it's making us better at what we're doing every time because we learn, and I can't tell you how many times it's like you have that like the aha moment. It's like, oh, and then you're like, oh, you have that like it's like the aha with the uh-oh, like, oh, that's how, it's like, oh yeah, that's great insight, that's great information. And then you realize like, oh, I've been maybe looking at that wrong, or
Yeah.
it's been limited, or I've left a lot on the table. And so yeah, we're always
Oh,
a
totally.
student,
Yeah.
always a student of the practice. And
Well,
yeah.
and I always get tickled because people will, a new client will reach out to me and, I'm always happy to have a phone call or whatever if they're like, what is this?
Yeah,
My
totally.
counselor told me to come see you, but I have
Yeah.
no idea what this is. And I
Yeah.
always start out by saying, it's not like the yoga you see on in the news, in the commercials or whatever. It's different.
Yeah.
Um, but just that whole idea of meeting people, really meeting people where they are and having enough flexibility here for me to be open and to realize like one of the mistakes I know I made early on is that I wanted to give people like I wanted to give people value for their time and their money. And I
Oh, yeah.
think early on when I first started as a yoga therapist, there were times where in some sessions I moved too fast
Mhm,
and I
mhm.
should have slowed down. And I've learned, like to read their cues and to see where their nervous system is. And, one person may be ready for this much in a session, and another person may be ready for this much in a session.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
But you're
And,
always
and
learning.
yeah, and those are both valuable. Yeah, it's I can that resonates absolutely. There there are times when we get ahead of the person in front of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's that awareness. Would you have anything to add to it? I rambled on a lot about standing in the gap, but
No, I mean,
you have
I
something
think,
to add to that
I
you've
think you nailed
experienced?
it. I mean, the thing that I see that I try not to get on my soapbox about is like I wish nervous system just literacy, I'm going to use that term, nervous system
Mhm.
literacy was something that was common, and I wish it was something that was taught in schools, taught in Sunday school, taught at home. I mean, I think the world could be a different place if we all from an early age just had some basic nervous system literacy.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think, like you said, we need both. We need, like if you break your leg, right? You need a doctor to either set the bone or do surgery or whatever you need. Um, I think the compartmentalization of the
Mm.
human experience, whether it's the compartmentalization of the different specialties of medicine, like you need a neurologist and a cardiologist and an orthopedic, you need all these different things to treat all these different parts. And so there's that compartmentalization of the body, but then
Mhm.
the compartmentalization that, a lot of times medicine is treating the physical
Mm.
and but the rest of it is kind of, you know, just not getting tended to.
Yeah,
And so that's where I feel like we can really stand in the gap, like you said, and
yeah.
come in and tend to someone's emotional well-being, mental health, spiritual
Mhm.
well-being,
Mhm.
and their body, right?
Mhm.
Because it's that whole person approach that we're not just honing in on one thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Compartmentalization, absolutely, because you do see that, and that does happen, and that often leads to confusion.
Yeah.
I know that's how I feel when that happens to me personally. Um, which reminds me, and we talked about this briefly before, is how good of a companion yoga therapy is
Yes.
to modern medicine. It is a good companion in that way, and that whatever they're being treated for with their doctor, or maybe their doctor has said, hey, you should do yoga. Um, what a great opportunity, for yoga therapy to come in and fill in those places that are maybe being dismissed, overlooked,
Yeah.
um, or becoming symptomatic because of medication, right? It's like
Hmm.
sometimes there needs to be a pill,
Yeah.
and that's okay, and that's good, and like thank God for modern medicine. And then sometimes as a companion or as a support practice, yoga therapy, is that support, it's the pill plus the yoga therapy. And then maybe over some consistent practice and time, it becomes, just the yoga therapy, and we no longer need the pill. I mean, who knows? But that is the one of the, the benefits of yoga therapy. And I've always said, like, if you can breathe, you can do yoga because it's
Amen.
breath centric.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah,
breath
absolutely.
centric.
The
Um,
other thing I love, for people who are thinking about becoming a yoga therapist, and, I'm a yoga therapist. I don't have, I don't do anything else. I don't have any other certifications. I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga therapist. But, there are a lot of people who have a coaching certification or a nutrition background or whatever it is. And that's one of the other things that I think is so cool about yoga therapy is that you can blend it and layer it in with whatever other modalities whether you're a counselor or we have I mentor people for Living Souls 200 hour, and
Mhm.
we have an integrative physician who went through the 200 hour, and I was her mentor. And, she's like talking to her patients about the yamas and the niyamas. Like, how cool is that? And so, whatever else you're doing, yoga therapy is only going to give you the opportunity to enhance that. I
Absolutely.
have another one who went through the 200, and obviously she's not a yoga therapist, but she became a yoga teacher and she's an attorney. And she's like, I'm applying these things dealing with my clients. Like it's so cool. And so it's just really cool to me that like if you are already doing work in the field of like nutrition or counseling or coaching or any of those things, you can layer yoga therapy
Yeah.
in with it and it's going to weave together and those things are going to support each other.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love that. I think that that versatility is
Hmm.
awesome. That,
Hmm.
you can blend those things together and use them in the way that God has gifted you to use
Yeah.
them.
Yes. Yes. You're unique. Yeah. You are going to share it in the unique way that you experience it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for you, when you think about how you approach um as a Christian, how you approach being a yoga therapist, um, how does your worldview play in to the way you practice as a yoga therapist?
Mm, that's another good question. Well, first, I pray. I pray for my clients.
Mhm.
So, I when there's moments of silence or, if they're in a posture, and I'm not talking, if they're in Shavasana, I pray for them. I pray for them for their specific need. And then, when I'm not with them. So that's one thing that I would say, as a follower of Jesus, that I feel like is ultimately the best thing I can do for the client. Like the best thing I can do for them, the best gift I can offer them is to make space for them to lift them up in my prayers, to hold space for them in my prayers and to talk to them about Jesus. And, because healing to me, like the depth, like healing is getting God's perspective, right? It's getting God's perspective on the situation. And so praying is the first thing I would say that is a way in which I base my yoga therapy practice on as a Christian is praying for them. And then I think that as I learned yoga therapy it's an application to deepen your faith. It is an application to deepen your faith. And so as we were saying before, I really, my goal is for my offerings to be invitational, right? I am not trying to convince anyone to have my, beliefs. I am creating an invitational practice so that you can find out for yourself what is true, right? Or not true. It's your experience. And so, but I do think that ultimately kind of what is the undercurrent in all my offerings, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's small group, whether I'm in corporate wellness, deep trauma, um, just wanting to stretch your hamstrings. I mean, whatever the reason is that you're in front of me, right? It's valid. But I think that the biggest thing is awareness, right? So the practice of yoga is, conscious union. So, loosely said awareness. Let's just call it awareness. And awareness leads to presence. And and presence, like being in the now, is where the healing is, right? And Thomas Keating calls capital P presence God's healing, right? God's healing. So we just bringing the individual or the group of individuals through awareness into the present moment. And I think like who doesn't need that in this day and time, right? It's like the mind is endlessly in the past reprocessing. or it's endlessly in the future. Worry,
Predicted.
and so any chance, an opportunity I can get to help someone practice presence through awareness of bodily sensation, awareness of breath sensation. So just this sensory experience. So through the mind, bringing that person into the present moment where God's healing is, right? Like it's like we're restless until we're resting in God's heart, right? And so for me, it's just that idea of working with all dimensions, bring everything. It's fully bodied, fully being, right? So we're to love God with all our heart, all our mind, all our body, all our soul. And so fully bodied, fully being in the present moment, in the now, and receiving that grace of God's presence and that healing presence. And to me, that's where it is. It's I mean, I call it all the time. We're practicing presence. Sometimes I'll say we're practicing noticing.
Yeah.
We're practicing just being aware of what is. And it's a holistic approach, it's a holistic approach, and it's a discipline, and it's something that we just return to. It can be a spiritual discipline, for your Christian faith, because it embodies everything that you are, and it can be an expression of your beliefs. It can become prayer.
Hmm.
It's so many things. And when we invite God in, right? We invite God into the practice. We invite him into the session. We invite him on the mat. We're just inviting, inviting, inviting.
Yeah.
It's that invitation. It's that invitational practice. And it's bringing in for me, and when I'm working with individuals, it's helping them bring into harmony or into alignment, their head space, their heart space, and their body space, and
Yeah.
just bringing that unified harmony, that shalom. It's
Yeah.
shalom, it's peace, it's
Hmm.
wholeness, it's completeness. And again, it just comes back to the definition of healing. I mean, everyone's coming to us, right? Because there's just something that is not quite right, something that is unsettled within them, whatever dimension that might be in. Oftentimes it's all of them,
Yeah.
right? Um, and it's peeling back the layers, and it's coming into touch with like our truest nature, and getting God's perspective through that presence, so that the healing can happen. It's awareness first. It's hard to create change without awareness. So
Yeah.
helping that individual come into awareness with what is. And then from that awareness, we can then move into regulation. So then we can start, okay, we have awareness around this. Now here's the regulation. Here are the practices. We're going to move. We're going to breathe. We're going to just lay down and be still. I don't know,
Yep.
what is it that they need? And then from that consistent regulation,
Mhm.
transformation is possible,
Absolutely.
and so, and it's usually like this, right? It's never just straight line. It's,
Right.
try this and tell me how you feel. Try this, tell me how you feel. And co-creating together, inviting God into that. And so, yeah, long answer, but
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I
how
can't,
about for you? What does it look
I
like
don't,
for you?
I mean, I don't really have anything to add because like you just said it, but like, yeah, praying for my clients, even praying over my office, my space.
Mm,
And that's become for me a really sweet practice, just to pray over the space itself. And and for me to, it goes back to that meeting people where they are and being respectful of where they are,
yeah.
but also knowing that the Holy Spirit is in the room
Mm, yeah.
regardless of of where they are, and that that's not that's not for me to force on anyone.
Yeah.
That's for the Holy Spirit to take and
Mhm,
to
mhm.
to operate.
Yeah.
It's knowing what's mine and
Oh,
what
yeah.
isn't mine, and knowing where I end and God begins,
Mhm.
and knowing, just inviting and allowing him to work through me. And sometimes that looks like completely going like way off in a tangent from what I might have thought we were going to do in that session. Um, and just trusting, just trusting that
Yeah.
that where I'm being led is is where I'm supposed to go. I had a client come in one time, young man, mid-20s. He'd been seeing a counselor for quite some time, and very much lived in his head. One of the reasons he was seeing a counselor is because he just, like, emotion was not accessible to him. And so his counselor was like, you need to go see Lucy, do some work with her. And on about the third session, he came in, and his sister had just been diagnosed with not of not a terminal illness, but an illness that was going to really impact her life long term. And there was still a lot of question around it. And he came in and he got on the mat and he started crying.
Mm.
And I sat with him for an hour, and I asked permission. I said, "Can I put my hand on your back?" Like, he got like flat on the floor and cried.
Mm.
And he said, "Yes, please." And I sat next to him and put my hand on his back for an hour while he cried. And that's all
Mm.
we did in that session. But he felt safe. Like, I can
Mm.
barely talk about this.
Mm.
He
Mm.
felt safe to come in there and lie down on that mat and cry.
Mhm. And that
And
was the
so
thing he needed the
that
most.
was what he needed. And, I threw all my plans for the day out the window, and trusted that was what needed to happen that day.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yep. Meditating on the student. You were
yeah,
locked in.
yeah. So I think some of the most important things we can do is get out of our own way
Oh,
and just let the Holy Spirit take over and trust.
yeah. Yep. Yeah. My teacher would always tell me the only way you can screw this up is if you come in with an agenda.
Yeah, yeah, true. And
Oh,
if you're overly tied
yeah.
to any
But
plan you have,
and
yeah,
yeah, and but like you said, you have a plan, right? We don't want to just come in and I mean we have an idea.
right.
We're grounded. There's skills, there's competencies, but
Yeah.
we can't be rigid
No,
with
no.
what we think, even what we see on paper, because I'm sure you're like me, where we have an evaluation and intake form,
Yes. And
even
my
what we
notes.
read, right? That's just part of it. That's part
Yeah.
of it. Sometimes it's the way they say the words you're reading. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's really then that assessment and that energy,
Hmm.
that nervous system communication that's happening. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, and like you said, face down, crying, hand there, just I have you, I'm here, and
Hmm.
I have no agenda but to be with you in this
Right.
way is one of, what a profound practice for that person,
Yeah.
that gentleman. And then, and sometimes I've definitely had situations where the opposite, where I show up and clearly movement isn't happening because there's just so much trauma,
Mm.
and we're spending an hour sitting on the couch with one another talking about, sandwiches.
Yeah.
It's safe.
Yeah. Right.
Like, and then it's like there's a moment where there's an inner critic that might be like, really, are you like, you're a yoga therapist, you're talking about sandwiches right now, you can do better. And then it's like Holy Spirit saying, no, no,
No, that's what they
no,
need.
we're just sitting talking about sandwiches because they feel safe and held right now. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just always being open,
Yeah.
which is why we practice, right? It's why we
Yeah.
practice, so that we can have that alignment of head, heart, gut centered.
Absolutely.
And so good, so
Yeah.
much healing. Yeah,
Was there anything else? We've talked about a lot of things. Is there
I know,
anything
and I could
else
just keep going.
you would add? I mean, I'm just so excited that you have come into the Living Soul world, and that you're part of this, and that you're such a wonderful resource, and you've encouraged me in so many ways, and um, like everyone who has helped put this curriculum together
Mm,
has really just encouraged me, and it's so fun to just to see people who are in the trenches doing the work.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's one thing I really am proud of about our yoga therapy curriculum is that the people who are teaching the different modules are really in the trenches doing the work um, of the module they're teaching, and I'm super excited about that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's gonna be it's gonna be really exciting to watch it all unfold
yes,
and to grow and to evolve and just to see, all the meaningful teachers that are going to come through
yeah, I'm excited.
and like you said, like teach us as we're teaching the content. Um, because it really is.
Yeah.
One question I have for you is what do you tend to turn to the most for practices for your client?
If they are a believer, my go-to, like, that I teach pretty much everybody is embodied breath prayer.
Mm.
And so I have breath prayer cards, and I ask them to
Mm.
choose one or two cards that really speak to them. And then we explore, breathing with that statement from that breath prayer card. And it might be look like a sun salutation. It might be look like, rubbing hands. And then I invite them, and this is really hard for a lot of clients, um, to without no words and try not to overthink it. Just ask your body. So if the breath prayer card, if the breath prayer is I am enough or I'm forgiven or I'm loved or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to embody. You can stand, you can sit, you can lie down, you can move to embody. How does your body express? I'm
Mm.
loved, I'm forgiven, I'm enough. And that's one that I love. I have
Mm.
others that I love. I use sensation tracking, love it. It is always so powerful and so informative, and we get
Yeah.
information that the client's
Awareness.
like, where did
Yeah.
that come from, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then another one that I love, and I love it even more now because one of my clients got tattoos because of it. Is I use a process called Both and it's based on a blessing by Kate Bowler. And
Mm-hmm.
I take river rocks
Mm-hmm.
and paint pens, and we talk about what the both ands in their life. I am
Mm.
healing and I'm hurting. I'm brave and
Mm.
I'm scared, and
Yeah.
they write, and then we move and breathe with those. And I have a client who got the word both and then an ampersand because
Really,
that was so meaningful and powerful for her. So it's really cool.
that is really cool to hear.
Yeah.
And what a creative way to, yeah, to integrate something to hold in their hands
Mm.
to
Yeah.
really embody that. And yeah. And then, yeah, tattoo it on your body. Well, that was
Yeah.
meaningful for the person.
Yeah. On your hands. Yeah. Yeah. I know. So
Yeah, no,
what would you say your go-to
that's
is?
great.
Yeah.
I would say breath for sure, for sure, and specifically connecting them to the subtlety of the breath.
Hmm.
And usually the universal way that just tends to work is, imagining the breath breathing into the heart and then breathing out from the heart to the rest of the body. And so that's usually a go-to for me that universally tends to bring that regulation, and something that we can do together. And then also something that they can do just when they're standing in the line at the grocery store, or in the line to pick up their child from school, or with their in a very intense, um, situation or discussion, conflict. I would say that that is probably one of my go-tos that has been for a while. And I find that, on one level, having them breathe with the the mind's awareness to trace the breath into the heart, it brings a sense of kind of loosening restriction, physical restriction around the heart. Also, and so you're bringing awareness to the physical layer and the heart actually like being squeezed and with the movement of the diaphragm. And then below that, then they're tapping into the emotional heart, the feeling heart. So we're kind of working through the layers of the heart, the physical heart, and then the emotional feeling heart, and then deeper than that, the spiritual heart. And
I
we're just
love
loosening restrictions around all three layers, of the heart,
I love
softening
that.
that. And that's usually one that, I mean, everyone, it's good for everyone, but it works for those that are in severe injury of the nervous system, and for those that maybe they just need a little regulation here and there, they're doing okay otherwise, but they're just a little stressed. It
Yeah,
tends to be one that will meet them. It'll meet them wherever they are because
absolutely.
it works with the layers of the heart. So yeah,
I love that.
but yeah, there's so many things to do with the
I know.
breath.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just said it. So just the breath prayer or mantra. It's like, yeah, and we can just do it sitting. We can do it bringing in movement,
Mhm.
right? There's just so many different ways to bring that in. So
Yep. Just it's endless. It's so fun. Like,
it is endless, which is why that's why I say yoga never gets boring, because just
no.
when you think like, oh, this works, and then there's a new direction, or there's something else, or there's something more, something less.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely comes alongside you, whatever season you find yourself in or situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely. Well, Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for just
Oh,
taking the
thanks for
time to chat and share and be a part of this with us. And
yeah.
it's really an honor to have you in our midst. And
Oh, well, I'm honored to be here and just to be given the opportunity to come along and join in and just yeah, it's been such a great field of support for me personally. And so it's exciting for me to be able to come along other, just like-hearted, like-minded individuals who want to share, because once you experience it, it's really hard not to share it. It's like you
yeah,
can't not share it.
well, and it's fun to start to find your people,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Where like sometimes I was talking about that with my spiritual director. I was like, sometimes I'm talking to people and they look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. And she's like, because you are.
I know.
She's like,
Not
you
everybody
are.
wants to be in the woo-woo club.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody even knows what that is.
I know. I know. Yeah. Gotta check myself sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day, and
Yeah. You as well.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah. We'll be in touch soon, I'm sure. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay, I appreciate
Anything
it.
more. All right. Take care.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
Bye, Lucy.
Bye.